Sarah Harrison, CEO of INvets.
Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning. It's so nice to see you.
And you as
This
well.
has been great. This has been fun setting this up.
Indeed.
Yeah. So
A learning experience.
that's right. Welcome to INvets First
Thank you.
podcast. This is exciting for us to move forward. So, hey, so here's what we're gonna do: chit chat about who you are, introduce you to all of the people that we're helping, and all the people that we're gonna continue to help, and then they can go back and learn about who Sarah Harrison is, and then worst case is your children will have a 1 hour biography of their mother, unadulterated. So we'll do our
I
best.
might just answer the question, why is there a Brit heading up an American
We won't
veteran?
start with that. Stop. We help all veterans. So first, tell us where you're from. I think some of us can probably pick it up a little bit.
As soon as I open my mouth, right? Well, I was born in the north of England, grew up in a village called, Upper Poppleton, and then I moved to Nether Poppleton. There will be a test on that afterwards.
We're gonna need a spelling
Yeah,
account.
absolutely, the joys of English addresses. But, so I went to school over there. I'm actually a radiation technician. We all do what we're supposed to do. But I had a real interest in the military, and when I was in my first position in Oxford, I joined a field hospital.
Well, before you get there, what's it like growing up in the north of England?
Well, I lived in a Roman city, which is absolutely steeped in history, obviously. Still has the city walls around it, still has the gates that they closed under siege.
So as a young person, you're running around.
Totally
Those
not
walls.
appreciating it.
Oh, jumping over.
Yeah. It wasn't-
Vespasian built this, and you're like, you know, we don't need that rock.
Yeah, aren't those nice daffodils on the side of the wall? I mean, it wasn't until I moved away that I thought, I grew up in a really nice city. You know, I walked, when I was going to high school, I walked past St. Mary's Abbey, the ruins of St. Mary's Abbey from whatever century that was, and just, thought, oh yeah, ruins.
Right.
Just kept going.
Right.
So,
Idyllic setting.
yeah, but no, I've got twin brothers, identical, 2 years older than me, and
Also, you're the youngest.
I am the baby.
So my daughter Eden is, sitting there with 2 older brothers, and I always say she's tougher as a result.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be.
I don't get anything.
Allegedly, I'm the only person that's ever blacked the eye of one of my brothers.
Oh.
And that happened over one of those wonderful chore moments of washing up, because we didn't have a dishwasher.
Oh, right.
So somebody washed, somebody dried, somebody put away, and whoever was washing used to want to get out quickly, and he was just being really chopsy, and I just got fed up and turned around and lamped him. I will tell you that the other one held him off me after that. So yeah, you learn.
Yeah.
I had a couple of tricks that if we were all wrestling that worked, and you might want to share this with Eden. It's dangerous to do, but if you can just get your finger in the corner of their mouth
Oh, a
and
little
pull,
fish hook, yeah.
Yeah, pull
Yeah.
hard. I didn't know it was called that. It was something I created in my head,
Yeah.
but it works.
Survival. Well, I mean, yeah, survival is a thing.
So Eden, give her my telephone
I will let her know. I'll just pass it down, Eden, if Elijah,
Yeah.
and then she'll. So.
But I grew up just sport and school.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a lot of sport while I was growing up.
What's your sport of choice?
Well, I started doing gymnastics, and then I did gymnastics and netball, which we won't go there today because no disrespect, you guys have no idea about netball.
We're lacking in that sport.
You are, it's a cultural cavity.
Don't worry, we picked up pickleball. I'm certain that didn't originate here.
Probably not, but once I got to be 5'9", gymnastics was a little bit too much of an effort. There was a lot of me to get around the bars and the beam and everything else. So netball was my main sport.
All right. And then high school, were you a good student?
Yeah, I think I was a better student than I thought I was.
Okay.
It was one of those schools that you had to pass an exam to go to.
Okay.
And so, like anywhere, there's a bell curve. So we had the brainiacs at one end, the people in the middle, and then some people lower to middle. So I was middle-ish, but always felt that I wasn't very smart because of the brainiacs in the group, but it was only the top 5% or something that went
Right.
to that school, so it skewed the curve really.
Right, there's a bell curve in every organization,
Absolutely.
and the better the organization,
Yeah,
the bell curve means maybe a hair less.
yeah, exactly.
So, it's a
But
good
yeah,
lesson.
But I was, more focused on sport and school academics really.
So then what did you choose to do after high school?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was accepted to go to business school, but I wasn't quite sure that was what I wanted to do. So I went, I took a year out and worked just in a dental office in the city, which, well, I will tell you that one of the patients was Monty's Batman. He was about 97 at the time he came into the clinic, and it's like, really?
Oh my
So that was
goodness.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, but then I applied, I really wanted to be a physical therapist, but I wanted to be a physical therapist in the Air Force.
Okay.
But I chose the wrong exams when I was in school.
And how would have you known?
Yeah, well, I could have used my brain a bit really.
Okay, all right,
I
so-
got human biology, but I didn't do the chemistry.
Okay.
I didn't do physics, because the teacher for physics was this lady, Miss Raven, who was a very austere lady, huge chest that she used to fold her arms over and just bellow from the front of the classroom.
I had a microeconomics professor my first year in college that could do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I took the class, paid for it, and didn't receive credit.
Oh dear.
So,
Yeah.
maybe I should have learned.
Well, I just opted out. I thought I don't need that kind of hassle. It was one of those things where you had to go to the bathroom every time before a lesson because she just intimidated you so
Right.
much. So I didn't have physics, I didn't have chemistry. I had the human biology, which I really loved. But to get into physical therapy school was the Air Force wanted me to do it first. To get in, I didn't have the exams. It's very popular, so I ended up doing what you call here radiation therapy. So as a therapeutic radiographer, I used to treat cancer, okay, which was all physics. So I joined, and you just have to sometimes brace yourself. I joined that program not knowing that an electric current was a flow of electrons. That's where my knowledge was.
Right.
I never failed an exam because the teacher was great.
That'd
And
be
I was
important to
interested.
teachers.
Yeah, and the application was interesting. So so I did that, and
So you did the 1 year
out.
out at the dental office, and
Yeah.
then you went into
Yeah.
radiation therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I qualified, and then I moved south. I got a job in Oxford, and then I timed a move quite well to a centre in the north that was going to put in a new machine. I would have been at that point eligible to apply for a senior position because I'd done it for 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever it was. Got that position and worked there for a while. That didn't go down very well with the staff who'd been there a long time. So they gave me the job and said, right, now go home because this isn't going to sit well with everybody else. So I was there for a while, and then I just, in a fit of pique, decided to apply for a job in Canada, just casually.
Just hop in the pond.
Yeah, I thought, oh, look at that. Oh, that might be interesting. So I applied, and then it was one of those situations where they came back and said, oh yeah, we'd like to follow up with your references, and we'd like to talk to you. Oh, okay. So I did all of that, and then they said, yeah, we'd like to offer you the job.
Oh my goodness.
And I sat there and I thought, maybe I should just do this, because if I don't, like anything in life, it's things you don't do
Right.
that you regret.
So you knew that.
Yes.
You're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
And you're like, if I don't take this opportunity,
Yeah,
then this is the time. So you had the
yeah,
reflection to recognize that.
I did.
It's a big deal.
And so, and through my head, my thought process was, I might regret this when I'm fat and 40 if I don't do it now. So I moved to Toronto, and which was really great experience. I had one friend who lived just outside Toronto, so I stayed with her and her husband for 3-4 days, something like that, and went house hunting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
managed to find a house that was within walking distance of the hospital, probably 1.5 miles or something like that, which, it's great in the summer.
Right. The winter in
Winter.
Toronto is probably. So your parents, they had to have had a
Yeah, my mum used to say to me, why do you have to do these things?
Okay,
And
yeah.
I just said, I don't know.
I don't know. It's
So,
your fault.
Yeah,
I share 50% of this with you. So, but you're their youngest
yeah,
and their daughter,
yeah.
and the boys are staying in England.
Yeah, my one stayed very local and is still very local.
Yeah.
All that brings, and then the other one joined the army at 16 to escape my father's discipline.
Mm.
Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's it. There's a little irony there.
So he left, and then I did my thing.
Okay. So he left, and then, but you went. Did you go the farthest? I mean, I
Oh yeah,
understand.
yeah.
I'd imagine that.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Michael went a few places with the military. He was in Guatemala, and he was in Canada at one point.
Okay.
And he skied, I think, with the army team,
Oh,
so he
that's
did a bit of that as well.
Good for him.
So
Picked a good job.
yeah.
If
He
you can
was a-
ski in the military, then you have a good job.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was a heavy Royal Engineers heavy plant
Okay.
mechanic.
Oh.
So, yeah.
You still got to ski.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So you're in Toronto.
mhm.
You're walking in the winter.
Oh yeah.
First winter,
Oh yeah. And
Is
the
that-
inside of your nose freezes. It's
Right.
that cold.
you
So-
start thinking about maybe this isn't the right place. Like.
No, I was there for a reasonable amount of time, and there's always a man, isn't there?
I was waiting.
I'd met somebody in England who then was training to be a pilot, and one time he just texted me and said, or probably not texted, I don't think we had text then, back in the dark age, he's called and said, oh, I'm flying over to see you. I'll get there on Saturday, and this is like Thursday or something. Okay, this is impressive. So then at that point, I'm here, he's there, and anyway, that went belly up, as they say, but not till I'd moved back, so that was just perfect.
Okay, so you made the move. So he comes over.
Yeah,
You,
woos me.
yes. You go back to England. You quit the job.
Yeah,
And
go
did-
back, and then I lived in the south of England and did what they call, it's basically like supply teaching. You register and you can be sent to any particular hospital that's short.
Okay. Okay.
But then it was, I've been used to working in that purpose-built clinic in Toronto, and it really was beautiful. I went back to London, and I was in UCH Hospital in London, which is in the basement, and it's dark, and
When you say purpose built,
yeah.
what does that mean?
Well, because of all the requirements when you're using high energy radiation, a lot of the time when that first started, people put you in the basement
Mhm.
and then reinforce the walls and all that kind of stuff.
That way, only you would be the one receiving. You and the
Yes.
patients are.
Yeah, but I used to think, sometimes when I walked in there, in and out of the room, I thought, in 50 years, are they going to say, how did they think that was right? How
Mhm.
did they think they were safe? We've got at the university in Leeds, there's various pots of sort of dead limbs from people who used to pick up cesium
Right,
or
right.
some other radioactive thing, and
Yeah.
of course everything just
Like the
whizzes
people
away.
that used to lick the
Yeah,
paint, or
Yeah.
they thought it was fine.
yeah, exactly.
The
So-
watchmen, they were like making watches or something.
Yeah, and you just think, in a few years, if the half my
Right.
face gonna fall off or something, but.
Well, you're holding in
I
quite
think
well.
we're all
Yeah,
good.
I think you fasted. I just found out, like, when they got an X-ray, and they said they don't even really need the vest or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, no, a lot of things, well, and certainly I've still got friends who are in the field, and nobody would want me anywhere near them now. I mean, things have changed so
Right.
much,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Very, very accurate, and now some of the things that we did, they wouldn't do anymore.
But you did it when it was an art, I think.
Yeah,
Is there something to that?
well, we used to put tattoos, is that what you're referring to?
I mean, I mean,
Treatment field.
Right, the whole thing was
Yeah.
at its relatively young.
Yeah, it was really, and I heard some horrendous things sometimes, because one of the senior oncologists that we worked with, I remember him, he was a surgeon previously, and he said, oh, it was so difficult when they decided not to do radical mastectomies anymore, because sometimes you'd start and you'd forget that you didn't do that, so you'd be taking off or out more bits than you needed, and you're like, what?
Oh no,
So,
oh no.
but we all learn.
We're advancing.
What do they call it now?
At a-
Continuous improvement?
A continuous improvement at a cost, but don't worry, the cost is worth it, they say.
Yeah.
So you're back in England.
Yeah.
You're doing the sub, you're filling
Yeah.
in the gap.
Yeah.
And
I was working in the hospital, and I remember treating patients, and there were some things that just, I won't go into details, but the response was, well, we always do it like that here. Is that the right way to do it? And then sometimes we'd get patients with a cord compression from metastases or something late in the day, and you'd hear, oh, I wanted to catch the early train. And yeah, we all sometimes want to get out early, but it didn't tie in with what I thought I was doing that position for, right? This is somebody's loved one that if you don't treat today, Friday, they might be off their legs by Monday. And I just became a little bit disillusioned, and decided I wanted to do something else. So then I had to think, who else needs me to treat malignancy with high energy X-rays, gamma rays, electrons? Nobody. Ooh, yay. So then to break down what you're doing into those transferable skills and the soft skills. And so I applied to work with as a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Oh, is that you?
It's that bag over there.
Oh, it's the bag. That's fine. You're a busy CEO, so that's the way it goes. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait.
So I applied to 2 companies, and I ended up getting the job with Lilly. So,
Okay.
which was.
You mean the Eli Lilly?
The
That is
Eli.
headquartered right here in
Indeed.
Indianapolis.
Explains partially why I'm
Right,
sitting on the
right.
seat
How
today.
you arrived here? Yeah, we'll get to
Yeah.
that though. Okay.
So I started to work for them, and I covered an area in the south of England which I didn't really know very well, and we didn't have GPS. Okay, so I used to drive drive everywhere with a road atlas on the seat next to me.
So you were in sales?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah.
Then.
And I sold 3 or 4 products. It was pretty successful. That's English modesty. And then somebody said to me,
that's not a thing, but that's
oh
fine.
yeah, it is. We underplay. Somebody said, oh, would you like to do the associate program? And I wasn't fully cognizant of what that involved, but it sounded career limiting to say no. So I said, oh,
yeah.
that'd be great, yeah. So basically you go into the office and you do sort of 2 years as an associate and work in different fields in the office. So I did that and ended up being a sales trainer.
Okay.
They used to call me the senior sales trainer, and I was a lot younger then, but it always made me think of a blue rinse and sort of sensible shoes. It sounded like a really starchy kind of title,
Yeah.
but I really loved it.
Okay.
I worked with some great people and was in a really interesting time, because Prozac was one of the products that we were selling, so that was interesting. So I've got loads of great stories about talking to doctors and sales things.
So where does by now you've progressed in your career.
Yeah.
Where does the military fit in?
Well, when I first qualified from the school in Leeds, I moved down to Oxford with a friend of mine, and it turned out, and I'd still got that military inclination. I'd listened to a lot from my brother, I'd seen, heard a lot, and the girl, Nifty, as we call her, good friend, it turned out she was interested as well. So, you move to a new city. We did a couple of things. We had the hospital job, excuse me, and then we both worked in a nightclub, in a bar.
Okay. I see the transition to the military.
Well, it was one of those things that it's a social situation. So
Right.
you actually meet people, but you don't have to talk to anybody you don't want to talk to very long, so that was interesting. And then we both realised we had this interest in joining the military. Well, there was a field hospital, 219, just up the street, so we both went there and joined. So it was called the Territorial Army, but it's essentially the Guard.
Okay.
And
So that's our version of the National Guard. Got it.
yeah, and so it was just very eye-opening. We loved it, but totally naive is what it was, and we didn't know all the time what was going on. And I just remember the first time we went on one of the drill weekends, but it was in the field, and she packed a hairbrush and I packed a curling iron, and we were intense.
Okay, right, yeah, there's no power outlet. Okay, so you did you have to go to basic training
Yeah.
to do that? So
Yeah, we
how,
went to
so,
Aldershot.
okay, so you're a professional though?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've done some professional things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then you find yourself in basic training with barracks.
Yep.
Are they co-ed or are they?
Well, the rooms were all, I mean, obviously, the basic training was co-ed, but they kept
Mhm.
us all divided other than that. But it was all, iron everything 9 inches square. If it's not right, it's, thrown about.
Okay.
Beds
Yelling in your
tipped up,
face.
mattresses. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a drill sergeant stop us as we were marching, because I'm a problem solver, and we were on the parade square and we were going to drop off the parade square, and I was right hand marker, and so I just turned ever so slightly so that we wouldn't drop off the parade square. This was not the right thing to do.
Okay, you just fall off.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
face appeared in front of me. Did I tell you? No, sir. Why are you doing this? I don't know, sir.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't think like you.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, just problem solving.
so you're now. Does active duty and do they have one basic training, or does the guard go to a separate basic
It
training?
was basically it was all.
Everybody's in.
Everybody was there, and we had to do the whole running around 3 soccer pitches, football pitches as we'd call it,
Okay.
which that was brutal because there were some people who weren't very fit, so people who were got round and paused and waited, and then some of the slower people just got in and said, right, go again, and so some people were dragging, but fortunately I was very fit at the time, so I did my thing.
Yeah.
And I got best female recruit for that
Oh, that's
basic
what's up.
training.
Congratulations.
And
That's
then
amazing.
got pulled in to see the commanding officer to see if I wouldn't like to join the regulars at that point.
Okay.
So,
So you were fit. They see a good candidate.
Yeah.
They can pull you in and see if you can go.
Yeah.
So you call them regulars.
Yeah,
Okay. So you, for us, active.
yeah,
Same thing. To go full time military.
yeah.
Okay.
But I was too far down the other path at that time, I think, so, but I stayed with them for between 8 and 9 years. I say 8 and 9 because in the middle of that I went to Toronto for just over a year.
Oh, so when you went to Toronto, you were in the guard.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
It's almost like a leave of absence.
Okay.
So then when I was coming back, Nifty, who was still in, my
Mm.
mates, they had a big competition called Pegasus.
Okay.
Which was a really arduous weekend. You travelled to the mountains on the Friday, you got up at 4, the competition started, you had your webbing on, which was ridiculously heavy anyways, that old canvas stuff.
Mhm.
And then you had team kit, and you were doing somewhere like 25 miles during the day. You finished that, there was first aid incident.
Does everybody do 25 miles?
If
Or
you're
is-
in that competition, you're
Okay.
supposed to,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
And there was always one clown who said, oh, I'll carry the stretcher,
Mhm.
which was not aluminium, there was another eye in there. It was a big heavy wooden thing with a canvas sling in it, it was always heavy.
Yeah.
There was always one guy, well, I'll just take the stretcher, yeah, for the first mile.
Instead of sharing the weight.
Yeah.
Okay, distributing.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And so, first aid incident, which always involved the biggest bloke they could find who had a fractured femur and was in a burning vehicle.
Oh
Right?
yeah. You're right. Of course. Of course. I'm glad to see that nothing's changed.
Yeah,
So, you know.
so we did that, and then there was a night navigation exercise, and everybody had to do the map reading, which was challenging, because not everybody was very good at map reading, and you had somebody in the vehicle with you that was
Okay.
making sure that everybody did it. So
Mhm.
depending on when you finished that exercise, you may or may not sleep, and then it was a 10-mile speed march. the
Okay,
next
so
day.
because would they let you go the wrong way?
Oh, yeah.
They'll just let you. Oh,
Yeah,
good. That's okay.
So, and I tell you all that because when I was coming back, Nifty said to me, we're short of one for Pegasus. And I said, I haven't had my boots on for however long. You'll be fine.
Right. This is great.
Really?
Yeah.
You'll be fine. So after the first aid incident on Saturday and before the night navigation, there's some people, we're medics, right? So there's people doing a foot examination. And I just remember.
You were a medic?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
And I just remember going and putting my nasty bare foot up and the guy looking at it with a face like that and said, just put your boots back on. You're gonna just have to eat that.
Oh.
You know those blisters, we had the black leather boots,
Yeah.
and those blisters that don't bubble out, they bubble up into your foot. So, you know, I don't know how many weeks later, the whole, like that much of your skin drops off your foot.
Just incredible.
But, and the worst thing about those, and you must have had this as well, although your boots are probably better, but when you're walking or hiking, speed marching, whatever you're doing, somebody always wants to stop. But if you stop, then you have to start again, and it's that those first few steps.
Just
when
keep
you
going.
Just
keep
move.
going. Don't stop. Don't stop. It's not gonna get any better.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's just, you're one step closer to quitting.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then that's when you know it's a lot of mental stuff.
Yeah,
You know, and some
absolutely.
people have that, some people don't, so yeah, so I joined then. I joined when I first qualified, because I was, in Oxford, so we joined there, so I was in 219, which was the unit that covered several bases down in the south, and then when I moved back up north, I joined 212, which is another field hospital, so.
Okay.
But great people.
So you finish Pegasus,
Yeah.
then you go and
Yeah.
you go to 212.
Yeah.
And then at 212, what does it look like as a medical professional in the Guard?
Well, at that point in time, we made up 80% of the Army Medical Service, which for people like my brother, who used to call me a weekend warrior, or oh, you're with the Rodneys and the Ruperts again this weekend, are you?
And that must be a reference to.
Oh, it just, you know, the upper crust
Right.
sort of
Okay.
type of thing. But we would do, you know, we'd go somewhere, set up the field hospital, we'd run casualties through, you know, just practice basically what would happen if, but we did a lot of other competitions, and we'd do NBC weekends, when, I think I shared this with you once before, when my husband was interested in me, I said, well, I'm going away this weekend, you know, you can come over if you want Friday, but it's an NBC weekend and I have to practice my defecation procedure.
Nothing will bring a relationship together
Absolutely.
faster.
Didn't actually do that, but put all the suit on, how do you take it off, what do you do? And he's sitting there with the little manual making sure that I'm doing the right stuff. Anyway, he stuck it out.
He stuck it out, for sure. Well, at least he knows that you're squared away.
But, you know, because we were the reserves, the Guard, we got all the shoddy equipment. So, excuse me, when you went to do the NBC, they'd put you in a bunker or some building, and then push all the gas in there, and you're there with your leaky gas mask on. So depending on your equipment, you came out with eyes streaming and all the rest of it.
But if it was tight and good to go, then you were good to go.
Yeah, but
Right.
because it was all old stuff, we just got the remnants. Most of it wasn't very good.
I don't think that they're doing that anymore.
It's probably a good idea.
I think you have to experience it. You know, everybody needs to experience some gas,
Yeah.
and then that's good for them. Right, and then they get out, and you're like, okay, cool. I don't ever want to be in that kind of warfare. So you do the medical, but and that's not really what you're doing in your full-time job.
No,
So at this point, you're at Lilly.
Yeah.
So you're at Lilly and you're in the Guard.
Yeah.
What kind of cool schools did you get to do in the Guard?
Well, I went to, you have to do 2 weeks somewhere, so I went to Germany, to a military hospital over there, to help just on the ward and get immersed in, you know, real life stuff, and which was interesting because it was a general surgical ward, and I had to do all the TPRs and all that stuff after surgery, and I showed up next to the bed, and some guy had a big patch on his eye, and he said to me, hey, why have I got this patch on my eye? And I said, said, you know, you've had surgery on it, obviously they anaesthetize it, and so now your eye is numb, so you wouldn't know if you got something in it or whatever. So this is just protection for your eye until the anaesthetic wears off and everything else. Yes, but why is it on my right eye? The left eye was the one with the problem. I went, I'll just get somebody.
Oh no.
So that was
This is a military hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, but, and then, you know, then there was ward rounds and things, and somebody was talking about somebody having an operation on their hip, and I was just sitting there, little nobody from across the water in England, it was in Germany, and somebody said right hip, and somebody said left hip, and I'm sitting there thinking, how do I get clarification without upsetting, you know,
Right.
the officer? So in the end I just said, oh, just for clarification, somebody mentioned right and somebody mentioned left. Which one is it? Oh, okay. Oh, geez.
Oh my goodness.
So
gracious.
interesting.
Can you imagine? Okay. Well,
But we did.
glad that we're not getting surgery in Germany.
Indeed, I'm sure it's changed.
I'm sure. They build cars. Humans, they're not worried about so much. Okay, so but you also went to airborne. How are
Well,
you
yeah.
at airborne?
The airborne thing was really more than it was just somebody said who wants to do this.
Okay.
So I finally put my hand up because I thought it'd be rude not to. And so it wasn't that I was permanently doing that, it was more of an experience.
Right.
But I remember going for the training and I was nervous, right? I don't like heights. Even doing the assault courses, sometimes Nifty would be like, just look up, look up, you know, and talk me through stuff. And we went to train to jump, and I was pretty anxious, and then it was going to be time to get in the plane and go.
Okay, hold on. Do they do like a 3-week?
Oh no, this was like
How do they
2
do
days.
2 days.
Yeah.
So you go from you're in the guard,
Yeah.
and then you show up. They say, hey, who would like to go experience?
Yeah.
So it's basically an experience airborne.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no like, so in the United States we have ground week, and then we have ground week. So you spend an entire week learning how to fall from basically a zip line.
Yeah.
And then you have tower week, which is 33 feet, and they're prepping you because most people, they figured out most people will, if they won't jump, they won't jump at 33 either.
Yeah.
So there's a jump master, you're squared away, you have all your stuff, you have to, you know, do your hard 90 degree turn and then hop out, right? Do your thing, nice tight airborne position. You get trained on all that for a week. Then you have jump week. So.
No, we didn't have any of that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of the name. It was the base that we used. Yeah, T. And it doesn't matter. But no, you go and you watch a movie to start with of what this looks like, little film, and then they go out and they talk about how it's all going to play out and how you leave the aircraft and how you land.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went through all of that, and then it started to pour down with no chance of redemption. So they said, oh well, we're not jumping this weekend. Really?
So you don't ever practice feet knees together, nice tight airborne position, like
Well, not from anywhere other than, you know, sort of
like
where
a
you're
box.
at. Yeah.
like a 3-foot box. They're like, okay, this is.
Oh, we didn't. I think things might have moved on, Jesse. But so anyway.
I think the UK just did it differently. Fort Benning's been doing it the same way since the 60s, I think. We don't have as hard a PT. They used to have a very difficult PT. I don't think our PT is now pretty.
Yeah, we're very tough over there, you know.
Pretty. So
I fast forward
yeah.
because I can't do it that weekend. So then I have to go through the whole thing again.
Watch the video.
Yeah, and get ready and
mentally see yourself land.
Wonder whether I need to take extra clothing because one doesn't know
Right.
physiologically what might happen.
You're gonna have to practice the defecation removal. Okay, right.
Parachute. So anyway, everything's going ahead. So I'm strapped into my equipment, and then it's like, right, we had a little Islander plane. Okay, and I think they took 7 in the plane. It's only small.
This was a small plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And So if I can remember, you kind of came in and there were 2 people sitting there, 2 people sitting there, and maybe there were 6 and then 2 here.
Yeah.
But because I was nervous, I was last in, okay? And I remember I was just sitting like this, at the rear end of the back side of the
Right.
plane, and the guy that was helping us was sitting right next to the door. So, you know, I was thinking, what am I doing? And I was never really worried about the landing. It was would I have the wherewithal if my chute didn't open, you know, to put a reserve. So I'm sitting
So
there.
you're keeping your hand over?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
And I'm sitting here, and the guy comes up to me, moved to the door, and I went, already? I think I'm there for a little jolly round, you
Right.
know? And he just said, move to the door. Okay, I'm coming. So I shuffle forward,
Right.
sitting on the edge like this, right? And we're on a static line, which
Yep.
is the saving grace.
Yeah.
And my little legs were blowing in the wind. So I'm sitting on the door. And I just, again, it's that mental thing. And they told us that they couldn't push us, but they could help. Yeah, right. So I just knew in my head,
Right.
if it's all gonna end in the next 10 minutes, it's gonna end because I leapt out, not because this clown pushed me.
That's right.
And then off I went. And we were supposed to do the 1001, 1002
Yep.
check
Okay.
chute.
Right.
None of that. No expletives, just silence from me as I dropped out. And then, amazing, because
Yeah.
the plane's gone,
Yeah.
so quiet.
The chute opens.
The chute opens and I see the handles that they told me I'm gonna
Did you have
see.
twisted right? Did you have
No.
nothing twisted? You were
Yeah,
in.
everything just went nicely. And I pulled
Oh.
left and it went left, and it's like, and I pulled right, and I was there for the ride then, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you don't realise, and you know this, how fast you're falling.
Right.
When that's the first time you've done that,
Yeah.
until you see the ground coming up, it's like, oh, this
Right.
is quite quick then.
Right.
But, you know, I did.
Feet
my
needs to be
bit,
on it, yeah.
And here I am.
Wow.
But my mum, bless her, when she knew I was gonna do that, that was another one of those, why are you doing this?
Why are you like this?
Yeah, and she said, and we had public phone boxes, you know, the nice red ones. She said, please call me when you hit the ground. And I went, okay, so I'm okay, Mum, I made it. Oh, thank God for that.
That's incredible.
So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
So we jump out of like C-130s. Or, I mean,
It's a whole
these
string
are
of you,
large.
right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you jump out of a helicopter, but when you're at Benning, it's a C-130. It's a huge cargo aircraft.
Yeah.
And there's 50 of us in
Yeah,
there,
no, there's
packed in.
6.
That's incredible. What
Yeah.
a great first experience. You also just proved that they could drastically cut costs and take airborne from the 3-week non-experience to a 2-day experience.
Well, I don't know if I'd recommend that.
Oh, well, in light of today's environment, maybe.
Anybody's listening, I don't advise.
Okay, so you got to go, you get to jump, you get that experience.
Yeah.
That has to be, I mean, I've always said, like, you know, we need to do things that make you check where you are.
Oh,
And that's
said
one
it
of
to my
those
kids, right? You
times.
know, do something every day that
Yeah.
makes you a little bit scared,
Yeah.
and then it pushes your own
Yeah.
boundaries. And there's a great video online with Will Smith,
Mhm.
who goes parachuting. Starts it the night before with him and his mates in a bar. We'll all go parachuting. Oh yeah, great, we'll all go parachuting.
Right.
And then they go, and he talks about what there is the other side of your fear.
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
yes, I've seen that.
Yeah,
also.
I think it's really good.
It is really good. Yeah, it makes you, I mean, you know, when you climb into the aircraft, you get this,
Oh, yeah.
did I do a good job, you know, as a parent?
Yeah.
Have I given the love that I'm supposed to give? Have I raised them? If this
Yeah.
is the end,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what, that chute almost always is gonna open.
Yeah.
But what if it doesn't? And then you have to reconcile that.
Oh, absolutely. And after me, somebody's candle, as we called it, so it wouldn't open, it
Yeah.
twisted. So they had to pull their chute. I don't know if I'd have been watching that
Yeah.
before I went, whether I would have done it. I don't know. You don't have to answer that question because I
Yeah,
was
because
fine.
you went first. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember my first night jump. It's a beautiful. It opens just like that. You know, you're
Yeah.
very happy and everything's
Uh-huh.
amazing. It's peaceful. And you just hear the wind and as I'm thinking those beautiful thoughts, an ambulance is flying down the,
Yeah.
and I come to find out somebody fell, you know, broke their ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but which is you know kind of awesome that that's all it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great experience.
It tests you.
It does. It
Yeah.
tests your fortitude. You come out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really tough humans who have a terrifying fear of heights,
Yeah.
and just reconciling that. And
Yeah.
you know, for us, the aircraft's 130 miles an hour.
Yeah. That's right.
So
And
that's
it's gone quickly.
that's right. And thank God it opened.
Don't leave me here.
That's so cool. So you go to Airborne. You're at the 212, I guess, and you're doing your medical exercises. You're in Germany. You're at Lilly. You're a
Yeah.
trainer.
Yeah.
So you're training. I mean, when you go to Lilly after you jumped out of an aircraft,
Yeah.
is that about the right time frame? Did
Yeah.
you show up on Monday and people are like, "How was your weekend?" You're like, "I jumped out of an airplane."
I'm
And
trying to think if that was whether I was there then or whether I was at one of the other hospitals. Don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay,
But yeah.
obviously that would be the buzz
Mhm.
because you're the only one, I would
Yeah.
imagine, that's in that environment. Your peers.
Yeah, and then we used to have a managing director, Alan Clark, the most charismatic individual. He was
You hear that, Alan?
he was a tall, sadly he's passed, but he was a very tall Scottish guy who, he worked in the UK and then he came over here too. He was here summer when we first got here. But he was ex-military as well. And his wife was Noreen, and Alan used to come and see me in the training department and say, where were you this weekend? And I'd tell him what we'd been up to and what we were doing. And he said, I tell Noreen that we can sleep safe in our beds at night because Sarah is out there.
Defending our freedom. This is amazing.
So he really appreciated some of that, you know.
Yeah.
He was a very good guy.
Well, it shows, I mean, well, and you have that built-in camaraderie,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
so, service member to service member,
Yeah.
you just speak similarly, it breaks down a lot of barriers.
Oh, yeah, and
for
he
the
was
service
he
member.
was one of those guys that there was no mess with it, right? He's from Scotland, it's worse than me from the north of England. But I remember him saying to Julian, my husband, who was the product manager at the time, leant over his desk and he said, "Oh, market share's great, Julian, on Prozac." And Julian said, "Well, you know, it's a team effort, it's not just what I'm doing." And he leant over the desk, he said, "Julian, let me tell you something. If I come to you and say, well done on the market share, take the glory, because if the market share's not good, I'm gonna come here and lean over your desk and sort of create a new one for you because the market share's not good."
Right.
Message received.
Yep. Understood. All credit goes to me. Got it, for now on. And then he comes home.
Yeah.
And he says, all credit's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Lily, your training, what's going on in that arena, or how long did you do that?
Oh, I was there, because I did an associate assignment there, and then I went to market research, not my bailiwick, and then I got the senior sales trainer job. And then Julian got the opportunity to come here and eke out Prozac market share before it went off patent.
Okay.
So, but I had a 3 and a 1 year old at that time with no family here, clearly, and he was going to be busy and travelling some, so I took a career break.
Okay.
With Lily, which was quite pioneering of them. Nobody was doing those types of things at that point.
And they were.
Yeah, they were doing
Okay.
it.
Wow.
And so we came here a long time ago, 98. So.
Well, the one lady has been there 34 years.
I know,
Yes,
bless her.
right.
But yeah, 98, ostensibly for 3 years.
Mhm.
And I am not an illusion, I'm still here.
Right.
So I didn't work for a while. I did some Open University stuff and raised 2 boys, and then we had a position in Texas. They had a small operations down there for a while, and Victoria was added to the family in Texas. So
What part of Texas?
Dallas.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Once.
It's a bit hot. A lot of snakes.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I know. I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
I remember once we had it because we were international service employees. We had a very nice house and we had a little pool at the back. And I used to like sweeping the leaves and collecting the leaves off the pool because I couldn't believe I had one, you know.
Right.
And one day I was sweeping and I found a snake skin at the back. And I thought, oh, that's neat. I'll put it in one of those viewfinder things that the kids have right? And they took it to school, and here's a snake skin, and then roll on another year. I'm out there sweeping.
Nice. Right.
Okay, it's time to go. Don't need to meet that.
Right.
So, yeah, but just different things we experienced.
So were you in Dallas for 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh.
So just about. We left, I think just February 2000, and then we left. We came back to Indy right at the end of that year. So it's just two full years, would have been 3. Yeah.
Yeah, miserably hot.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable.
Not a fan. I spent my 2 years in San Antonio.
Oh yeah.
Happy to
Yeah.
not say.
You do get used to it though, I think. Your body acclimates.
So people say,
I think
I
you do.
still sweat buckets.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever officially got used to it.
Yeah.
But the ice tubs are a saving grace.
Gosh.
Go for a nice long run down there. So you come back up from Dallas.
Yeah.
You're still on career break? How does this?
Well, what happened when we were in Dallas, we should have been coming back to the UK, going back to the UK, and then that was when Lilly did one of their OPEX cuts, and my job was still, or the equivalent, would still have been open in the UK, but there wasn't a job at the right level for Julian. He would have had to wait or sidestep or whatever. So there was quite a lot of, they were cutting down on ISE, so they weren't going to put us somewhere else, allegedly. So we ended up coming back to Indy and localizing, which, did I want to do that? No, not really. But I also didn't want to be the one that said I need to go home and put us in a situation where, he didn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved back to Indianapolis.
Okay.
So,
And then, is that the end of Lilly?
for me it was, yeah.
Okay.
Because we localized, and so then, I had 3 little people, and we put, I wanted the kids to have an international education, because which we started when we were in Dallas. We did a little Montessori when Joe was first here, but then in Dallas we went to the Dallas International School, because they do the IB, International Baccalaureate, or the French bac that they did in Dallas. But that's global. So if we were to have been moved again, then you could pick up that education and the curriculum wherever you went in the world, pretty much.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's a program that teaches kids to think. You and I both know our job is not multiple choice on a daily basis. Oh, if only.
Right, right.
But they teach critical thinking, problem solving, analyzing, all that stuff, decision making. So it's a good program. So when we were moving back here, I knew I wanted to put them in that program again. And the whole house moving thing's a story for over a beer another time. But so then I was that over-engaged parent, A-type personality. I'd go to school, I was on this committee or that committee or whatever.
Well, you were used to a professional environment. You served in the military. Now you're a stay-at-home mom, but your kids are in school, so
Yeah.
all that energy has to go somewhere.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of that, playing a bit of volleyball, which was the closest sport I could get to netball, but, and it's not the same. But long story short, again, I was asked to help with admissions, which I did, and then, I was trying to see if there was a part-time job, and there wasn't, and then I employed somebody, and then she got fired, and so then I wrote a job description for a job share for the admissions director, and found something to do with me. So I did that for a while, well, 7 years I did that, so.
That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, increased the number of international students who came to the school.
So that was like a metric that they were tracking?
Yeah, when I started, there were 2 or 3 students that were coming in from Korea and China, and we increased that number significantly, and we increased the fees for international students, like universities do, so it added a lot to the bottom line for the school.
Okay.
And so I really enjoyed working there. And then a friend recruited me out of there to work with her company for a while. But then it just didn't really make my socks roll up and down. So I ended up going to Connexus, which is where
Okay.
I met Westwood.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Connexus, what's the first role that you had there?
I took Wes's job
Okay.
because Wes was looking at a Project INvets,
Right.
right? And so they
Okay.
need somebody to backfill him. And have you met him yet?
No, we've
Yeah.
chatted on the phone because his phone number was attached to the
That's right.
wrong human
Yeah.
in Salesforce. But
Yeah.
so I'll be sure to send this. But yeah, we ended up chatting for an hour.
And
I've heard
he's
amazing things.
He's just such a good guy.
Yeah.
He used to make me laugh. He was a former sniper, so he had a telescope in his office on the 18th floor of Salesforce. I said, "What are you looking for?" "Wes, up here. You're not in the military." "Ah, you don't know." He said.
He's keeping surveillance. Don't worry, everybody's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he started INvets at that point, and I covered Southern Indiana with the higher tech program.
Okay.
And I actually loved that job. And then
Higher tech.
yeah, it was
Okay.
a program to introduce more high school kids, K through 12, to manufacturing. We're a manufacturing state.
Right.
We don't have the right number of people for workforce. It had that it's dirty, dark and dangerous kind of label. So we had this program that taught manufacturing inch deep, mile wide, just to get a taste.
Right.
We had an opportunity to get some qualifications through MSCC, if I remember the acronym correctly. So safety was one, and operations, various things. And then I did a national case competition for students in college to come and present to a panel here of manufacturers, which was great, loved it. And meanwhile, Wes was, because he'd had that role, he could see that there were places that veterans could come into the workforce. And so he started INvets with 5 major automotive manufacturers: Honda, Toyota, well, Allison was in there, Cummins, and Subaru.
Okay.
But it was a pay-for-play model at that time.
Right.
And so he was under the auspices of CICP. Then when Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch was looking for
CICP, further.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, Central Indiana Corporate Partners. It's
Okay.
An organization with 6 pillars, I think it is, underneath it.
Mhm.
Connexus being one of them, which is all about manufacturing. Then they've got one about tech, and they've got one for Agronovis, it's all
Mhm.
agriculture,
Right.
BioCrossroads, Life Sciences, Ascend, which has sort of, they've done a lot of work with apprenticeships and trying to retain university talent.
Right.
And then there's an energy group as well.
Okay.
So
But you're at Connexus.
Connexus,
So
yeah.
so you're at Connexus, 100,000,000 South, Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
Which is a huge territory.
Yeah.
And then Wes is on his way out, or?
Yeah, well, he's still running INvets under the Connexus umbrella.
Okay.
But Suzanne Crouch at that point is looking for a veteran initiative. So obviously Wes worked with various people to come up with
Mhm.
what this model looked like, and then presented it to Suzanne Crouch, along with other people who had different projects. But the advantage Wes had, I think, was that he was already running. So there was already movement.
There's steam behind.
Yeah, Jerry was employed at that point, and
At Connexus, or?
yeah,
Okay.
under the INvets. I think Jerry will tell you he started on a Monday, and by Wednesday he was up at Great Lakes saying,
Okay.
"I work for INvets. we do this."
Right.
So we were very lucky. He was very lucky. INvets was lucky to be funded by
Okay.
Suzanne Crouch.
And then, so now, then Wes goes full-time in vets.
Yeah.
You,
I stay there.
step in.
And they move out from Connexus under the money coming in from Suzanne Crouch, and they move into 777 just in time for COVID.
Right.
Which was obviously perfect timing with
Perfect
a group
timing.
of people who want to travel and meet people where they are across the country. So,
Right.
but they made it work. We did some virtual things and everything else. So, and then it just grew from there.
Mhm. But so your time at Connexus, how long were you at Connexus before you ended up coming over?
I think 16 or 17 I joined, 17 maybe.
Okay.
And then I joined INvets in February 2022.
Okay.
Which was interesting because, I worked quite closely with Wes when he was doing the INvets stuff. And anyway, I called him one day, I'd been somewhere, and I just said, Wes, what's happening with INvets? And any growth, any need? And he said to me, so how funny, Sarah, your name is on my whiteboard. And I went, leave it there. And it turned out that he was contemplating moving to be closer to family in Tennessee. And so
I mean, but his face is still on the IU billboards.
absolutely.
Like
Well, who would take that face off?
He's never not going to be an Indiana resident.
No.
So,
who would get rid of that
right?
ugly face?
I think that's what the MBA program's thinking.
Absolutely. It's a good marketing tool. So Jesse, you might be on Notre Dame.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
So.
I don't be so privileged. Go Irish. So Wes, you guys have that talk.
Yeah.
And then I guess the ball starts rolling.
Yeah, that was June, July 21. And so I met with him, and then he introduced me to Blaine, who was obviously, Blaine was moving into Wes's position, and then I came in under Blaine. So
As the vice president.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come in under Blaine, vice president, February of 22. Okay.
Yeah, so just over 3 years.
And then the work that you did.
Yeah, it was baptism by fire from all these things. It was still a relatively small group of people.
How many?
There was Jeremy, Miranda, who used to do some of the marketing and communications, Blaine, and Brian. Brian also left Connexus and came over to INvets when Wes
Brian
came
Evans.
on. Yeah.
One day he'll sit in your chair. But yeah. So
well, not yet. It's going to be a bit cramped at the minute.
Not the CEO chair, this one. But maybe he'll be there too.
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah.
So Brian came over from Connexus.
Yeah.
So Connexus really fostered an environment that created, basically helped create INvets, and then its leadership core. So it's pretty interesting from a Connexus
Lee
standpoint.
Llewellyn, who's on our board, was also instrumental in some of the groundwork that was done with INvets too. So there were a number of people that were there, but Wes carries the flag.
Right. It's a guide on.
Cool.
So what would you say, that first year coming in from Connexus, INvets, 5-6 person team at most.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It was very busy because we had Knox and Campbell, as you know, a flagship basis, so there was a lot of activity down there. As I said, Jerry, one of the first places he went was Great Lakes, but then they weren't opening again. Some of these people were just getting going. If you think about 2022, there'd been a lot of remote work and everything else. So we had a few relationships, and what we did was built not a new model, but enhanced the model we had and added in ambassadors. And Tony, I think, was one of the first hires for North Carolina, which, God bless him, if we could clone Tony. He's very busy down there, former Marine, all-round good guy, and just wanted to keep working and help military. And the advantage we had with Tony is that he'd actually been stationed here in his active duty role up in South Bend, I think.
Yep, South Bend.
So he knew the state as well. So we built that out. We tried various other regions to have, or States to have a ambassador with mixed success, to be fair. But we increased the number of bases that we visited, and I often did base visits as well, which was a great way to learn what happens at the ground level. You know, I always think you need to know what everybody's doing.
Well, you went to Bliss my
Yeah.
first month, July of 2023.
Right.
You went to Bliss to capture all of the
Yeah.
Experience
Yeah.
of our returning Indiana National Guard from Kosovo.
I did, yeah. I shared how unpleasant that was in that basement room, the smell.
I think it was the smell primarily that got you, but
Hot people in a small room with no window. Whoa.
welcome to the Army.
Yeah.
So, but that was it. So that was roughly a year after you had,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's right.
after
But
you had
I'd
come
been
on.
I'd gone to, because I managed to get into Pendleton. We haven't been in Pendleton, so I managed to open the doors there, which is why we then tried to get an ambassador over there. I went to Texas a few times for Cavazos, formerly Hood. So Cap Knox and Campbell went down there as well. So it was a good baptism by fire, you know. But obviously I'm not a retired military from here, so I used to sweat every time I tried to get on the base,
Right,
you know,
right.
in case they didn't have everything that they needed. But really enjoyed
They hear
it.
the accent and they say absolutely not. I'm
Absolutely,
sorry,
and I say-
1776 is a thing.
And I say, yeah, we're backed by stealth, and I'm an ally, and you were a bit slow around
Have
the
you heard of Five
Falklands.
Eyes? Right, exactly. Yeah,
So,
let me in.
But, so it was busy, but we were getting more people. We lost a couple of people that year for different reasons. But we also, in 2023, managed to increase our funding, right? And hence you guys came on. And so the model now is it's more efficient. Nothing's perfect, but we have, you know, the 5 regions of the state covered, and then we have Andrew, who covers the state for veterans who are already here. We have more ambassadors who are feeding people to the veteran engagement managers, and we're doing that in terms of numbers. And thank you to you and your team.
Oh, well, it's been awesome. So those 5 regions: Northwest Indiana,
Yeah.
North Central Indiana, Northeast, Central Indiana, and then Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
With the one in-state veteran engagement manager who's handling all of our National Guard
Yeah.
and
Reserve and veterans.
Yep, and all of veterans. That's
Yeah.
right. So quite the team.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers were you guys doing before that?
Down, it was kind of the 200s, probably. And the first year,
And when we say 200 veterans,
200 new residents.
200 veterans and their families moving to
Yeah.
the state of Indiana,
Yeah.
and then helping them find employment.
Yeah.
Which a team of 5
Yeah.
was handling.
Yeah.
A veteran and a spouse, because we help both.
Right.
And then so roughly, you know, probably 125 of those
Yeah.
are eligible for INvets to help.
Yeah.
And 5 were doing that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible.
And I think there was a little dip in, I think it was in 22, but we lost a couple of people that year, and then since then, the numbers just keep rising, and since that new team came on, you know, we're 425, 491,
Right.
aiming for 525, and looking good so far, unless you've any bad news for me this
No
morning.
bad news, right? Only good news. So 23, I started tracking, so July of 24, that year, from July of 23 to July of 24, we added 490
Yeah.
new residents to the state of
Yeah.
Indiana, which is remarkable
Oh,
because
yeah.
the team, it did grow by 6 new.
I think we doubled the workforce pretty
Okay.
much.
Doubled the workforce and
Yeah.
more than doubled the production.
Yeah.
Of new residents to the state of Indiana. And then this year, we are already over 480
Yeah.
new residents.
With a few months to go.
With quite a few months to go, and March is not finished. So the team has been doing a very good job at capturing So what does that look like? How would you define when the team is doing a good job?
Oh, well, we're measured on new residents and positions that people get, okay? I think that it takes a lot, it's not, we meet people where they are, and I've said this so many times, people work with people they know, like, and trust. If they, you know, when there's a few people trying to do case management, one or two people, the interaction time is minimal, right? Just because of the numbers and everything else. We've probably got people out there that said, well, you know, they didn't do a good job for me, and maybe we didn't in the first days, you know. But for me, the success is obviously in the numbers, but the packaging around that, if you like, is the testimonials that we get back from people who have worked with us, and they talk about what the team has done for them and how they help them. You know, the idea is that we take the strain of that move. You know, if you have a family with one veteran serving, sometimes it's two, one transitioning military serving, sometimes it's two, but it's not one person coming here. It's a whole family, and that is a massive life disruptor for anybody. If you know, new jobs, relocation and divorce, I think are the top stressors in our lives, people's lives. Some of those people are doing all of that at the same time, but when the team have got a good relationship with the veterans that they're working with, the transitioning military that they're working with, that they are texting, they're calling, they're talking, they're asking for help for things, that is success in my mind. Yes, we need the numbers because we have to, we're paying taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
But we are an investment for the state. We help all those people, they all come here, they buy houses, they buy cars, they eat, they do social things. That is a lot of revenue to the state in return for a relatively small investment from them. I think in a conservative estimate between 20 and 24, 7 million from the state over that period of time has come up with 22 million ROI. Okay. But I think national statistics say that military leave their first position, 60% of them leave their first position in the first year. We can't probably affect the national stats on that, but we can on the people moving to Indiana. And we need to do that, which is why your team follow up a year, 2 years, whatever. They're in our system for life. They have kids. Chances are those kids are going to use some of the GI Bill, go to college. Okay, they may meet the love of their life, they get married, they have kids. In a state, well, in a world with a declining population, let's try and keep them all here. You know, if we project out what that looks like, it's phenomenal.
That's right.
You know, and not all those people will stay, but some will. Some will be like me and disappear.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, there are some caveats, but if that 60% is leaving because they didn't find their dream job, which is like the language that we're trying to use, is let's find your dream job post-military. Like, the military was a great time, but it's not our identity.
Right.
So it's what are we going to do next phase, and how can we help them? And that will lower that 60%, which reduces stress on the family of changing a job. After leaving the military, then you're changing a job within your first year.
Can you imagine Elizabeth if you'd come home and said, I like this, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. No, yeah.
No, I think it's huge. And I think
well, and that's how we help mental health. That's how we help. Like, if we're gonna talk about mental health, we just get ahead of it.
Yeah.
We get ahead of that issue by helping people get where they want to be before anything goes south.
Absolutely. Well, we know that from the happy data, career, money, house, marital status, mental, physical health. But you spoken, and your team have all spoken to people that when they call, they get in touch with us, they say, I just need a job.
Right.
No, you need the right job.
Right.
Because those are the people, they have a wife, or a husband, they've got kids, you know, they've got payments to make on cars, whatever. I've got to make sure I'm covering my bases.
That's right.
Yeah, but we want you to cover it with the right position so that it's constant. And you know, it's a lot to deal with. I'm sure you can attest to that.
Well, it takes work on behalf of all parties,
Yeah.
finding a new job, making sure that you're on LinkedIn, doing the right activities. Just like you said, you know, what's a success for us,
Yeah.
success for the veteran, same thing.
Yeah.
Ensuring those successes. So what are some of the joys that you've had over the last few years?
Working with INvets?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's great to see where we are today, okay, and what the difference adding in a quality team, right? And as you know, we've got a lot of people with a lot of ideas, all right? Not
Yeah.
always easy to manage and filter through what can and can't be done. But as I would say, it's much easier to say dampen stuff down than to try and fire people up. So we have a brilliant team. We had some hiccups initially when we were starting, but we dealt with those quickly. This isn't a good fit. Okay, move on. But we have some very strong people out there who are passionate, and so that for me is great. Just seeing the increase in presence that we have, you know, online, LinkedIn, the watching how quickly some of our partners, like the Hiring Our Heroes events we go to, obviously we subscribe to that, we pay a certain amount of money, which gives us some perks. You know, we always have a good table in a good position, and we have so many places on panels and some of the events. When they have somebody drop off a panel, we often get asked as a company to provide somebody to go on it. They wouldn't do that if we didn't do a good job.
Right. Which is awesome to be a state.
Yeah.
We're representing the state of Indiana,
Yeah.
not just not a Fortune 500 organization, but we represent all of the Fortune 500 organizations
Yeah.
within the state of Indiana.
It's like a big parachute behind it with
Right.
600 plus companies coming
That's
with
right.
us.
That's
and
right.
that for me is great. We get people asked to do interviews, podcasts. Again, that's credit to the team. So that's fun. But then some of the people that we've helped, you know, we talk about Woody a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Woody's just a great success story.
That's right.
God bless him, he worked hard, and Dana worked hard for Woody.
And he ended up at.
He's at Wabash and he's in a supervisory role.
Yeah.
He's increased the number of widgets on 2 lines that are being produced in that role. I mean, he's doing well.
And we have another counterpart there also that I
Yeah.
have, Kevin,
Yeah.
who's finishing up his MBA at Ohio, and then he's being promoted. So 2 veterans
Yeah,
that were both on the supervisory level,
absolutely.
both doing very well.
Yeah.
Just continuing to prove that veterans with a short amount of training time will almost always outperform
Yeah.
their civilian counterpart.
They just have so many other skills that come with them that they're probably not always really good at articulating.
No, that's what we just heard of Lily.
Yeah.
That we don't do a very good job of selling ourselves.
Yeah, and that's, if you say what are the good things, those are some of the good things. I will add that, was it your guy that came from Hawaii that had never been here, was another one of Dana's guys that never been
Oh.
to Indiana, and he's here and happy.
Working at MISO.
Yeah,
Right, I think it was either California or Hawaii, but he, that was Chaz's.
right,
Chaz's guy who came in and he took the position at MISO, and MISO was
thrilled,
thrilled to hear.
yeah,
We have people coming from all over the country
yeah.
that are bringing not just their skills, but then a family member. In that case, he just has he has his wife, but coming in and, you know, just settling in Carmel, Indiana,
Yeah,
never having visited.
I know, it was wild.
That's-
Isn't it 55% of them would think, had
That's right.
never got Indiana on their
On their
in
radar.
their scope.
Looking forward to the next batch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but right, 55% are not considering solely the state of Indiana. They're open. And then we were able to explain and help, and along with the whole network that Indiana also offers.
Absolutely. There's a lot
to
of
bring those
people
folks in.
want to do this. You know, we've got
Right.
senators and legislators who love what we're doing, they want to keep it going. And sort of counteracting the real positives, the other thing is the education that we need for recruiters,
Mhm.
and some of the HR people, hiring managers, which comes back to that. How do we articulate those skills that these people bring, and how do people give them an opportunity to show what
Right.
they can do? You know, military, I always say they're lifelong learners. You know, to get promoted now, you have to do an associate's
goodness.
degree or whatever,
Right.
or they change your job. You're gonna do this, I don't know anything about that, well, you will soon.
Right, right. An enlisted person to have a senior, to become senior enlisted, they're looking for that person to have a minimum bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Which, you know, conversation could be had on the officer corps has
Yeah.
that typically was the delineation between the
Yeah.
two, but now you have very educated, enlisted and officer
Yeah.
leaving the military, going into the workforce, bringing that skill set.
Which it sort of makes me have a wry smile sometimes, because many of the people leave and they don't want school and they don't want to go to college, they're done with education.
Right.
They join the military and then they come out with 3 or 4.
Right. Victoria has 2 master's degrees
Yeah.
As
And
a
she didn't want to
senior
stay.
enlisted, right?
Yeah.
And she, right, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
She said, I'm done, don't put any more education in front of me.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, that checks, we're good. You've earned that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Oh, probably lots of things. How much time have
Right.
we got? No, I think, you know, I'm enormously proud to be sitting here in this seat and leading this group with a lot of help from the NCOs underneath.
That's right.
But, you know, we're small. Because of that, we're quite agile.
Mhm.
And it's great because everybody has lived through it.
Mhm.
So I think that makes us all better at what we do. I mean, I wouldn't even put myself in that category because I was, you know, National Guard. It's different because I had another job all the way, so my whole life wasn't changing. I've done other things where my whole life has changed, so
Right.
I do know some of the parameters that have to be considered. But there's a lot of empathy from our team with the people, but there's also a lot of direct communication, right? No, you can't sit here and tell me you'll just do anything, that's not gonna work.
Right.
So there's no pandering, it's like, this is real, right? You don't wanna be moving twice. And I think that has a huge amount of value, we should do with the people that we work with. You know, when I talk to people, somebody came in the office this week, wanted some help, and had been out for a while, not really had a consistent position, wanted to get one. And I said, that's great, and we're here to help you. You have to answer our communication. We cannot help you if you do not answer an email or pick up the phone.
Right.
You know, we're clever, but we're not that clever.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. And I think we do that a lot with people.
Mhm.
You know, this will only work if you match our energy. If you're not gonna do that, then it's gonna be very hard for everybody. So I think we have a good team. There's a lot of common sense and drive. There's a lot of passion and emotion, and we just need to keep doing what we're doing and watch what comes out of it. You know, we're helping transitioning military, we're helping veterans, we're helping spouses and boomerang kids that we get a few of.
Right.
But we're also helping Indiana, the state, because we are adding into new communities. So we're helping with the population side. And we all know if communities don't have enough people, services drop off, which
Right.
then makes it harder to bring in more people to those communities. So it's all very interwoven, but you know, we are an investment, not a drain.
That's right, truth. Where should people go to learn more about INvets?
It's fun. No, INvets.org, you know, you'll see us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn as well. But invets.org, very easy. And it is a capital I and a capital N. And vets is small, personal bugbear.
That's right.
But
branding matters.
It does. And you know, we're here to help you.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks for being on.
Well, thank you.
It was awesome, Sarah.
It's great to talk to
There you go. Boom.
All my life secrets.
Dear Lord.
Is that all right?